Welcome to the School Garden Podcast with Mary Jo and Anne. No matter where you are in your school garden journey, whether you are an experienced garden teacher, a novice parent helper, or a struggling home educator, we are here to help you and your kiddos in your garden space. Come and dig in with us because school gardens matter. So, welcome back.
Yay, we're excited about another
Exactly.
episode.
And welcome back to another quick dig episode of the School Garden Podcast.
So I love this short format, this short episode on one plant, so we can go deep into that plant and give you a quick look at how to grow loofahs.
So, how was your week, Anne? How's
It was great. It was a lovely week. Here in Texas, we are now harvesting our winter crops. So I had like 85 kids over the course of a day harvesting their carrots and their spinach and their chard and filling bags to take home, and just the joy and excitement. Those are special days. Harvesting is such a great time for kids because they've never had that experience.
Yeah, that is so
Often.
neat. It really is. And that actually leads us very nicely into this episode, because loofahs is what we're going to talk about today, are huge, prolific producers.
Yes.
And if you get it right, you will get a lot of loofahs. Now, I'm going to be totally honest with you here. I had no clue of the existence or knowledge that loofahs grew as a plant until I came here to Texas and a neighbor was growing them. And like most other sensible people, Anne, like everybody else out there in the world, thought that sponges came from the sea.
I didn't know that loofahs came from plants until you told me.
Really? So you've not come across them either here?
No.
That's insane. So those loofah sponges that you find in the stores actually are the fibrous interior of a loofah gourd plant. So that being part of the gourd family, or the cucurbit family, to be more technical, makes them cousins to squash, to watermelons, to pumpkins, and to cucumbers, which quite regularly at the beginning of their lives, they're mistaken quite regularly for a cucumber, aren't they? Until they get bigger and bigger, and you are like, I don't think that is quite the cucumber, but still. But this prolific, like long and vining plant has absolutely no problem whatsoever covering a fence, a trellis. It can even sprawl way across the ground if you want it to, and then it will produce tens and tens of loofahs by the end of the season, which when you get those faces of those children getting to harvest, you know, it's
That's classic.
It is really, really, really good.
The thing I like about them for a school garden is they grow all summer long. They don't start to flower even until August.
Correct.
So when the children come back to school, that's the point that they're even beginning to flower.
Correct.
You almost give up hope.
Yes.
That they're going to flower. But they do. And then pollinators love them. And so kids get to see pollinators in the fall. Usually we teach about pollinators in the spring, but you can revisit it when they come back in the fall. And they don't fruit until September, October here in North Texas. And so kids can watch them. At some point weekly, they grow significantly enough that kids can measure them and graph them. So they're great for that fall time. They're wonderful.
So we have a small school demonstration garden here in Fort Worth, and we use that to host professional developments and field trips and things like that. And we grew loofahs last year. We grow loofahs everywhere, but we grew them last year, and we had a professional development in August, and we had some educators that were fascinated by it.
They were
genuinely fascinated. And at that time, we had tiny little baby ones that were growing, and we had some of our educators were originally from Thailand. And they took the very tiny little baby ones away to cook with, which was interesting to me. And then we had a professional development that came later on in September, October time. And then they dried out and were ready for seed saving. So we had some educators that took some seed away with them, gone, we're going to grow this. Anyway, they've all promptly forgotten exactly what I told them to do with them. So this quick dig episode is for those educators who've forgotten entirely what to do with the seed they took, or for anybody else who wants to give loofahs a go this summer. So where do they grow? So loofah plants do really well in the heat, which is what makes them ideal for us here in Texas.
Exactly.
But worry not, because they will actually grow in cooler climates and cooler zones too. So just be aware that they will have a much longer growing season the cooler the area that they're in. So if you are in a cooler zone or a smaller place, try and give them the most sunniest, warmest, hot spot in your garden, and that will just speed up the season. Because you find that, don't you, Anne?
Right. Like my loofahs are ready a full month after the loofahs in our demonstration garden because it's a little bit of a shadier spot, but it works for me.
Yeah, exactly. And they come, don't they? So ideally, you can easily start them from seed. And seed is available online and also from really good nurseries. But if you have acquired seed from an old loofah, so those teachers that got seed from our old loofahs, and believe me, a loofah produces hundreds of seed inside. You just need to make sure that those seeds are viable. So you're going to look at the seed and you're going to make sure that it's plump. And if it feels kind of empty or flat, then that's not a viable seed. Okay. And the other way to test if you've got viable seed is to soak it. And if soaked seeds sink, they are viable. If they float, they're not. And that's just a great exercise to do with kids.
I love that.
Anyway,
I didn't know that.
We do it a lot with peach pits. I've got a garden that has an old a peach tree and, peach pits everywhere. And that's a test as well for fruit. It sinks, it's viable. And if it floats, it's generally not a viable seed. I've just done that this weekend, actually, at home with a butternut squash. I'm going to grow some butternut squash. And I soaked the seed and two of them rose. So I was like, I don't think they're viable. But I put them to the side because we're always ever the optimists, ever the experimenter and the garden optimist as well. And put it to the side just to see if that is indeed the case. All right. So starting loofahs can be a little bit tricky, but once they're started and once they're established, they really don't cause you many problems at all. They're a little bit too giving. So they are an annual plant, which means that they will do all its growing, all it's producing, and all it's dying off in one season. So you're quite unlikely to get it coming back again unless some of the seeds have fallen in that space and it comes back. So don't worry, you're not going to end up with it forever. Okay, so you can move it around. So ideally, we want to grow them from seed, which is sown directly in the ground. But loofah seed do like a warm soil to get going. And we're talking about an air temperature in the 70s, which is not a problem for us here, but it might be a problem for you if you are in a cooler place, which is why a lot of people will start seed inside and start off and grow the plants inside and then transport them later on. But in my opinion, transplanting loofah seeds are problematic. They don't like to be transplanted. So if you can from seed, that would be ideal. But if you do have to transplant, grow inside and then move outside, then just kind of monitor them a little bit and just make sure they're getting that even moisture, just set them going. So for us here, we can start to think about sowing them seed in May, even April. You said that you've got yours in the ground
last week. Yeah,
it's kind of warm enough now. And so getting those started before the end of the school year. So soaked seed, you're just going to poke them an inch into the soil. And you're going to be spaced about at least 18 inches to 2 feet apart. And you really do want to give them that space. Keep them evenly watered until germination or until that plant is established. Because they're a little bit trickier to get started, overseed, putting way more seeds than you want, okay? And then you can always thin them out.
Right.
And we've talked to you about thinning before. Okay, so put in, let's say, 4 seeds where you would just the one, and you can always thin out the other ones if you don't need them. When I say that this plant is prolific, I really mean it, okay? So one plant can actually vine up to about 30 feet, and you and I see that every single year, don't we? So make sure that when you are planting it, that you are giving it the space, that you are giving it a support. So something like a trellis, giving it a fence, something like a really good growing hoop to grow it on. Now, I grew loofahs every year at a school that has this kind of like growing hoop, and every year that loofah vine will bring down the hoop.
Right.
The kids love it, and we really look forward to it, actually, and then we just pop it back up again. So I've also put it over a pergola, and it's gone beyond the pergola, and it's gone way up a tree, and we've still got 2 loofahs at the top of this tree that I can't get down from 2 years ago. Kids love it, actually, kind of thing. It's really, really funny. So, but if you are putting a seed into the ground next to a fence, then just make sure that you mark where you've put it down. Maybe put some stones around it or put a sign, because it could get mowed down or weed whacked, especially if you're not the one who's doing the mowing or the weed whacking. If you want to avoid that entirely, consider planting in a pot or a 5-gallon bucket, so it's very identifiable as a plant. You are going to have to give it a bit more water than you would say it was in the ground. but it will need watering during dry spells. Okay, so if you are not getting as much rain, you are going to give it a really big, long, deep water at least once a week, twice a week if it is really very hot. Would you say that's about right? Is that what you do? How you water yours, or
I
just when you
think
remember?
so. When I remember, and when the leaves start to look wilty, then it's like, oh, I better water them.
Yeah, and they've got very big, kind of
Notice.
big leaves, and you will notice when they are looking a bit droopy and a bit thirsty. So, and in my experience, it takes much longer to flower, like you were saying, than say a cucumber or a squash, something else in that family. So hold your nerve. Okay, hold your nerve, because the flowers will come, I promise. And they may not come until that raging heat into mid-August, when you can't believe anything's going to bloom or produce or anything, but they do. And once they come, you're going to be rewarded with these beautiful, big, trumpet-like yellow squash flowers that get these really big, fat, black bumblebees that come along as these pollinators. And if you do have kids in the garden at this point of the year, then it's really nice to start talking about pollination, okay? Because they will have a male flower and a female flower. The male flower is much straighter. The female flower is more open and has a tiny fruit behind it as well. And you can start to talk about pollination. Possibly take a paintbrush, a little Q-tip, do some hand pollinating as well. You will get a lot of flowers, so don't worry about taking off a few. You'll still get blooms and you'll still get loofahs. So take those off and have a look at the flowers. So once pollinating starts, either by the big fat bumblebees or your Q-tips or whatever, as well, you're going to start getting little baby loofahs. And it is so exciting. Honestly, they are so cute.
They're so cute.
They are so cute. I was telling you about the Thai educators that take them away. And I think in Indian cuisine as well, that they use them very small. But after a certain size, and it's not long after they're small, they're not that good to eat. I think they're very fibrous. I think they're very woody. So most of us are growing them for the sponge quality, right till the end of their life. So we are going to let them go to full maturity and dry on the vine. So the loofah will go from a heavy green cucumber, and then it's going to kind of transition through to a drying up yellow, kind of shriveling up. And then it's eventually going to turn into this light, crispy brown, almost paper-like good, isn't it really? It's going to go from this very heavy kind of like squash to almost this feather-light paper thing, isn't it really?
Yes, it's a huge change.
A huge change. And again, fantastic to watch. So you can let this happen on the vine if your summers turn into fall and are warm. And they're long like ours. But if you are in a cooler climate, then you might want to have to take them off the vine, because if you get a frost, that frost is going to kill that vine. A light frost is going to kill off a loofah vine. So just be ready. Just know when your cold is coming in. So once it gets cold anyway, it's going to stop producing. Just be wary that when it does start to cool down, those frosts are imminent. You want us to really start thinking about harvesting and bringing them in. Just pick them all nice and crispy and brown off the vine, bring them in, but you can also bring green ones in, those slightly yellowing ones, and they will start to ripen. It takes a long time. Don't expect it to happen quickly, but you'll put them in a garage or inside somewhere, somewhere that's not freezing, and they will ripen up and you will get loofahs later on.
So you're about to talk about my favorite part of this process is what do you do once they're ready?
Yeah. So, you're going to have these gnarly, long, maybe about sometimes they can be 18 inches, even a couple of feet, if you get some really big ones. So the way that I do it is I like to dry them out, get them as dry as possible, so turn them in the sun for a couple of days. And then it's just a matter of transforming them into sponges. And this is such a great exercise to do with the kids.
They love it.
Because it's so tactile. It's memorable. The noise, the sensation, the kind of sensory elements to it is absolutely fantastic. And you're just going to crack them, squeeze them, crack them, and pick off those and peel off those dry skins. And inside, you are going to see a sponge. You are going to see this insanely fibrous sponge-looking thing that you were like, no way, absolutely no way that has come out of that, you are then going to start spilling seed. A ton of seed is going to start pouring out of the
Yes.
end of your loofahs, and that is very exciting as well. Now, once you've picked off all the skin, you've emptied them all out of the seed, you do need to do a little bit of cleaning for them. So you're going to dip them into a 5-gallon bucket of water, or you're going to rinse them. I like to, if they're going to go home and be used in people's showers, for example, or in the kitchen, I like to take them home, or beyond the children, is put a tiny bit of bleach into a bucket. Do you do that too? And then put some bleach in it, just any kind of like lingering bacteria that might be in there, or some kind of, who knows, just to make sure that
whiter as well.
It does. It makes them a lot whiter. And then you're going to rinse them off again, leave them, hang them up to dry in the sunshine, and then voila, you have got loofah sponges. As every year, I've been doing this for years now. Every year I still go,
I know, it's so exciting all the time. It is. It's lovely.
Unbelievable. And so what are the uses for them, The obvious one is that you use it as a sponge. You can use it in your classroom for cleaning down surfaces, cleaning down tables, having next to that hand wash sink. We send them home. Honestly, I think so many parents and kids just love to tell their parents that they actually grew this in their garden, and like, no, we truly did. So, and a big long loofah can be cut up into a number of portions. So you might be able to get 4 or 5 little sponge pieces out of one loofah. I've actually done it with a school where we've made our own soap and then dipped one end of the loofah in soap, and it's gone into a little bag and it's been like a gift. It can be used for art, paint printing, art printing, that kind of thing. Sometimes we keep a few back that haven't been peeled, and they're put on sensory tables, for younger years, that can shake them in the teacher's lounge as well, just for
teachers to learn.
How have you used yours?
So I typically use them as Christmas gifts.
Right.
We have a club that meets after school. I clean them, cut them up, and then they wrap them in tissue paper to take home to families. In fact, we had a fundraiser recently at school, and 6 children could harvest with me in the garden. So I've saved back 6 loofahs for them to take home, a whole loofah all to themselves, because last year I really did get 50 loofahs off one plant.
It was funny, actually. I ended up doing a session with a group, and their school didn't grow loofahs, and I just had to happen to have some in a bag, and these kids were like, what is this? We ended up doing a project together, and at the end of it, all they kept asking was, could we have a loofah? Can we have a loofah? Can we have a loofah? It was really sweet, and gave one to those guys, nice. And that's it. And they're absolutely adamant that they will grow them this year too, which is fantastic. So if you are heading towards the end of this school year and you fancy a little bit of something different on your school garden, maybe you do have an enormous fence that you really want to cover, you've got a project in mind for when you get back to school in August, September time, then perhaps you should just give this a go. Or maybe you're just listening to this and going, absolutely, what are you talking about? Maybe you are as incredulous as we are. Yeah, even trial them at home, possibly. Just, just believe what we're saying, because it really is very, very, very spectacular and quite magical. I can guarantee that this will become an absolute firm favourite on your school garden programme.
So we hope you enjoyed this quick dig into one amazing plant, and we can't wait to see you next time on the School Garden Podcast.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to hit the follow button on your podcast platform of choice. And share us with a friend, please. We'd love for you to rate us and leave a comment as well. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Made Green, or visit us at our website, www.madegreen.com. Details of today's shows and other resources are in our show notes. Any proceeds from affiliate links shared help fund our school garden programs. We look forward to seeing you next time on the School Garden Podcast.